Welcome to Doing the Most, the series where we talk about the misadventures of entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Georgie, execution strategist and serial entrepreneur. This series is here to get real about what entrepreneurial life truly looks like. We are driven, persistent, hardworking, ambitious. We are human, and these are our stories. Please note, all Season 1 episodes were previously recorded for our video series. Welcome to Doing the Most, the misadventures of entrepreneurship. On this brand new YouTube web series, I'll be interviewing many different entrepreneurs and asking them about their entrepreneurial journey. How did they get started? What have their misadventures been? And just what it really looks like, feels like, and is like to be a current day modern entrepreneur. So many people have these misconceptions about entrepreneurship, mainly due to social media, that it's really easy. You know, you could take 30 days to make $30,000 and you could become a millionaire overnight. But as real entrepreneurs know, that's not how it works. There are a few lucky winners that win the entrepreneurial lottery and get an overnight success. But most overnight successes happen after 5, 10, 15, even 20 years of hard work and dedication and many misadventures. For this very first episode, what I'd like to do is have myself be interviewed, as my entrepreneurial journey has been full with misadventures. And who will be interviewing me today? No other than Pedro Crespo, my past CFO from when I had one of my startups, Illicit Mind. But I'll let Pedro tell you a little bit more about who he is, and then we'll get this interview started.
Hey, so how's it going, everybody? My name is Pedro Crespo. I worked with Georgie for almost 2 years as her CFO for Illicit Mind. We became great friends, and unfortunately, we had to phase out Illicit Mind. But currently, and for the last year, I've been a real estate agent in New York, focusing on luxury real estate and helping clients find their dream home. Me and Georgie have a great relationship, and which is why I'm here today interviewing her for her very first YouTube episode.
Thank you so much, Pedro. So guys, let's jump right in. How has Georgie been doing the most on her misadventures?
So let's start off with one question. So none of these questions have been given to Georgie, so some of them may throw her off guard. But Georgie, tell me what made you want to be an entrepreneur?
Well, what made me want to be an entrepreneur kind of started really early in childhood. So I'm an immigrant. I was born and raised in Jamaica, and growing up in Jamaica, everyone is an entrepreneur in the community. So you have like the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker, but my father and a lot of family members had to start their own businesses in order to survive and in order to build and grow their legacies. There were a lot of people in my family that, were teachers and nurses, but the folks that were entrepreneurs and like started their own business, it really stood out to me. They were creating job opportunities for folks, and that was so interesting to me to see someone kind of create something from nothing and then make money from it. And I was just like, to me, it was just like this magical transaction. And from that young age, I always said, I want to own my own shopping mall. I want to create businesses, create opportunities, and just get to work with people and create our own ideas and see those ideas come to life. And that is really what kind of sparked that entrepreneurial drive inside of me, the family members that were entrepreneurs and like just growing up in that economy.
So with all these entrepreneurial minds around you, and these great influences around you, I'm very interested to know, what was your first business? Like, I know the official businesses you started, but what are those non-official businesses that you started back when you were younger?
Non-official businesses, tapping into the young mind. There was various things. All right, so back in even elementary school, I always had like a phone and like game systems. So from a young age, like I had like a cell phone from like in 5th, 4th grade. So I would like charge folks to like use my phone. I would like sell buy candy at the store and then come to school and like resell candy there. Now promoted to like now middle school, I was like the certified videographer because my mom got me a camera for Christmas. I think it was like 6th grade. Christmas or birthday. And so like any events that were happening after school, people were like getting light, I would like record it. And you know, that was like my transaction and like my contribution. Then in high school, I was selling like tickets for after prom. I was selling t-shirts, so I sold the senior class shirts. What else did I do? Just like random little acts that would get me some money in my pocket, because I wouldn't say my family was like super poor or broke, but we didn't have it like as well as a lot of my friends did. And so in order to make ends meet, I had to make a little bit of money here and there, and whatever task I could pick up that would generate some income for me, that seemed fun, something that I like to do. You know, building websites. I started building websites back in like 2007, 2008. Even before that, MySpace pages. So I would design people's MySpace pages and like get a couple bucks from that.
You were a certified hustler always.
Certified. It's in the blood. It's in the blood.
That's good. And what, like, as an immigrant, what was something that you found very hard doing all these side hustles or official things? Like, what was something that you wish you would have known before so that you could prepare for it, or something like that?
Like specifically coming to America. So like again, I mentioned back when I was like little in Jamaica, entrepreneurial jobs kind of there and kicking. But I felt when I moved to the United States, I had to kind of put that entrepreneurial bug like in this little case and like say, hey, I'm gonna leave you alone until like I get older. But now like in this interview and like talking about back in the days, like even though I thought I put it away, I was still executing on entrepreneurial ventures. And at the time, I didn't think of it. It was just like, oh, I'm gonna just make this little quick buck here and there. Because my mom didn't want us to work, so like we were never allowed to work. I got my working permit at 14. Tried to apply for like summer youth, and she's like, no, you guys are not gonna work.
That's really weird.
Yeah, it was like I was so upset about it. I'm like, oh, my friends are working at the supermarket. My first job was after I graduated high school. Like I never worked officially before that. But I always wanted to. I was like, Mom, I need money. I could work. But she wanted us to focus on school and education, and she wanted us to, like, my mom just really wanted us to focus on getting a good job, like going to a good college and getting a good job. And so while I was in school, I actually did major in accounting. You know, even in high school, I was like trying to stay on like the dean's list at all time. All throughout my educational career, like C's were not acceptable, B's were, what's wrong with you? So like it was either A or B pluses that was looked for in my family. Like if it wasn't in a high grade range, like we had issues. So what I would wish back then was like allowing myself to dabble more into entrepreneurship. I think I could have gotten a lot more done earlier if I had accepted the entrepreneurial path. It was just something like, no, you know, the entrepreneurial family members are struggling right now, and like, you know, their businesses were roller coasters. Sometimes it was doing really great and money was like flowing in. Sometimes it wasn't doing so great and they struggled. And that didn't steer me away from it. But a lot of people in my family and my mom would just say, like, you know, don't pursue that. Like, you need to go get your education, and then further down in life, if you want to start a business after you got your foundation, then you could do that. But no matter how hard I tried, I still kept on wanting to do entrepreneurial ventures, wanting to start something, wanting to create ideas, wanting to employ people, wanting to give people opportunities. So I just wish I could go back and say, hey, Georgie, just go ahead and do more, a little bit more entrepreneurial. It's okay. You don't have to stick around and do it.
That is something that's definitely very common in the first generation American, like, kid of an immigrant into the United States, that our parents really want us to be one of 3 or 4 things: a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, or a teacher. Right?
Don't get nurse too.
A nurse.
Close to doctor.
Especially for the Caribbean or Asian parents, a nurse. Or so. And when they want us to focus on that, they don't see any other career choices as something that's viable, especially not something as crazy as entrepreneurship, because you never know when that next or that first paycheck is going to come through. As you and I both know, it can be a couple months or it could be a year before you actually get paid in entrepreneurship, right? So with that said, what was that moment in your life that you said, okay, I'm taking this and I'm going to make this my career, my life? When do you decide entrepreneurship or starting a business for your own was going to be your life?
I think it happened most pivotally, like when I was working full time at Foot Locker. So after I graduated high school, got my first job, I was working like a doctor's office for over the summer, but I didn't like it. It's like, what am I doing here? It's like a lot of like, they were like super old school, so everything was on paper. Smelled like old people all day. I was like, this is not making me happy. Like, what am I doing? So I went to the mall like almost every day to just try to get like an escape, and it was like a bus ride away. And so I saw that Foot Locker was hiring, so I applied online, didn't hear back. Went to the store like, hey, I applied, didn't hear back. And for weeks, I would go into the store and call, and then finally the manager was there, and she's like, you know what? I'm gonna give you a chance. I'm gonna interview you. So I got the job at Foot Locker, and I worked there, and I leveled up pretty fast. So within like 6 months, no, less than 6 months, I was a key holder. And then within 6 months after that, I was like at another store. So I was leveling up and getting bigger stores. And I was like, you know, one of the top best performing sales person in the store. And Foot Locker, I don't know if they're still commission based, but at that time it was commission based. So I was like making, you know, decent money. And they have like trainings, so manager trainings, and I was doing the manager trainings. And the next step for my training was so I did like the assistant manager, and like the next step would become either an assistant manager or a manager of a store. And at this time I was working at the 34th Street Lady Foot Locker. I was going to Baruch. This was my first semester at Baruch. And, you know, it felt like everything was going great. Like I had already launched Illicit Mind Clothing. So the pivotal step didn't even come when I launched Illicit Mind Clothing, because I did that as like a side hustle. I was going to school, focusing on accounting. But towards the end of that first semester at Baruch, it just felt like everything was perfect. I had my own apartment, had my full-time job, you know, my son was doing great, my business was doing great, but it was just like, I want to go full-time entrepreneurship. I don't want to be doing no accounting major. I don't want to be working at Foot Locker no more. I don't want to be having Illicit Mind be something I do with my extra time. Like, I want to focus on entrepreneurship. So that summer, I did terrible in the first semester at Baruch. I got like a 1.4 GPA.
Wow.
And that was not good, because like I was about to lose some of my financial aid from school. And I had to even go to like this therapy session, like this it was like a therapy slash like, think of it like AA, but for classes. So it was like a weekly thing. You have to go and like you have to meditate and talk about how you felt and like why you got a low GPA, how you're gonna improve it. So I have to go to that thing. But I just knew that I needed to, and then I also switched my major. I dropped accounting. I was like, switch it to entrepreneurship temporarily, because I figured, you know, I want to be an entrepreneur, might as well embark on entrepreneurship. And I reread this book called Choose Yourself that is by James Altucher, and I read it a couple months back, but it didn't hit me. But that summer, the summer of 2014, is when I said, you know what, I gotta go all in. It's all or nothing at this point. And I had a lot to lose. Like, again, I was in my own apartment. I had my son. Cameron was about 2 years old at the time. But I was like, if I don't take this leap now and really figure out, is this what I want? Is this meant for me? I'm never gonna take that leap, and I'm gonna always regret it. So that's when I said, okay, this is the path I'm gonna take. And I just said, screw it. Entrepreneurship is it. I didn't know where my next paycheck was coming from. I didn't know how we were gonna pay the rent. I mean, now thinking back, it was it was really reckless, but
it's really crazy.
Yeah. But it worked out for the best. Like, I had to take that leap of faith, kind of like jumping out of the plane, but I was able to figure it out because I didn't have so many security blankets that I was like so comforted and like coddled in, like, you know, security blanket of accounting major, security blanket of having a full-time job. I had to figure it out, and I ended up figuring it all out, and making ends meet. It wasn't the best way, but it brought me here, and I don't regret any of it. But I would just say, if folks, be careful, and if you're gonna take that leap of faith.
So that's why I think you picked a great name for this show, The Misadventures of Entrepreneurship. It's like, it's not a straight line. Everyone says it, but no one really realizes it until they're in it. It's up and down, sideways. You go through different hoops and hurdles. It's definitely a misadventure. And for you, you talked about your son Cameron, but now you also have a little baby girl. So what do you consider yourself? A super mom, a super wife, a super entrepreneur? What's your role? What's your title?
Human, yo, cause
Human. Okay. Not
yeah,
all
like
humans are like entrepreneurs.
yeah, cause I want to like address that in a weird way because I for a while, like specifically right after I had the baby, um, Brianna, right, I felt I had to be 100% all the time at everything. Like I felt I had to be 100% there for myself. I mean, my company, you guys that are listed mine. I felt I had to be there 100% for both the kids now. I had to be there 100% for my husband, be there for my family, just projects that I was working on. And it's just like a lot of people would like title me, oh, superwoman, supermom. And it was just like being put on this pedestal. I felt I had to either meet, but most times exceed everyone's expectations of me. And I felt like their expectations were like up here. And I felt like I'm here trying to just every day trying to run and like meet that expectation each day. And it just came to a point where it made me really depressed. Like I was super depressed. And about a year ago, it's gonna be a year now, like I have been in therapy like before, but I had to like commit to like a long-term therapist because I needed somebody to talk about what was going on, like what I was feeling without like the unbiased, right? You know, I could reach out to family and friends, but because of their love for me or maybe their lack of love for me, their responses would be semi-biased. And I needed to talk to someone that would see it from like an outsider's point of view and just kind of help me dive deeper into like how I was feeling and not being so obsessed with like how I was making everybody else feel. Because everyone else, like I'm a super people person. I love, you know, engaging and helping and doing so much for others that I wasn't doing enough for myself. And I had to have somebody kind of like check me on that, like, hey, are you good? Like, because in order to be really good for everybody else, I had to
Be good for yourself.
yeah, like center myself and like set expectations that would make me say, okay, today I did a really good job at momming. Today I did a good job at, you know, business owning. Today I did a good job at wifing. And even if his expectations weren't fully met or her or anybody else's expectations weren't fully met, I met the expectations that I set within myself and could then exceed that at my own pace versus trying to catch up to the expectations everyone else was putting on me. And that made me so much more productive, valuable, resourceful. That made me able to help others even more. Like I thought like being like there was a stigma about being selfish or focusing on myself growing up that because I had like a really big family. So it was like if you focus too much on yourself, you're selfish, you don't care about anybody else. So I just didn't want to even focus on myself at all. But being focused on myself more allowed me to give and pour more into everyone else's cup because now my cup was like full, like running over full. So I was able to give more versus giving from like a half empty cup and then be left with like this much. So human is what I would call myself.
Yes, we all make mistakes, and definitely as an entrepreneur, I think something that I saw in you while you were going through this entire period, you becoming another child coming into your life, you you having a husband, it was that you stopped taking care of of your mm, internal self. You were taking care of your kid, and you would bring your kids to our events. You would bring your husband to our events, and as someone was speaking, or as we were taking care of some things, you would run off to take care of a fire that was happening in the family, or take off to take a customer's questions or something like that. And it was just so crazy watching you run back and forth and doing all of this, which is why I had to ask, what are you? Superwoman, super wife? What do you name yourself? Because
I released my cape.
you release yourself from that cape, and you just call yourself a human, which is great. But a great entrepreneur nonetheless. Um, which is your favorite role? Which has been your
Oh,
favorite role?
Ooh, don't do
Ooh.
that. Don't do
I
that.
mean, I have to do it.
I have to
Wh- Which,
choose.
which, which have you had the most fun? Not to say your kids aren't fun, but like where where have you felt the most gratification from the adventure, from the misadventures?
True, true. All right. I mean, some people gonna know what my answer is already, but I have, if I'm being honest with myself, I could fluff it and like lie, right? But I'm gonna be honest. It's entrepreneurship. It's the business. It's the hustle. Like it, it makes me a better mom. It makes me a better wife. It makes me a better person because that's my passion. Like that's my purpose. That's like why I'm here. That's my God-given gift. Like that is at the core who I am and what I'm meant to be. And if I feel good in entrepreneurship, I could excel in every other field. And just like applying the entrepreneurial mindset to everything else, managing two kids that are how far they're like 4 or 5 years apart, understanding what each one needs, understanding that I'm attending to my husband, then we have the moving company. So just like if I feel good and like just getting shit done in like an entrepreneurial scope, everything else is just like butter. Like everything else just feels and comes more naturally because I'm just being me, like at the core of who I
Correct.
am.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
then like for you, excelling at being an entrepreneur has taught you how to take care or manage employees, and
Hmm.
therefore you're able to take care and manage expectations from husband and kids. That's
Definitely.
right.
100%.
But also we like parents. I'm not a parent, but it's been very evident in the people who I've surrounded myself around, that people who are parents tend to put a lot more pressure on themselves and feel bad about not giving enough attention to their business or not giving enough attention to their kids, especially women who there's a societal norm that they have to keep in mind at all time. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so that definitely was an issue, specifically when the baby was born, because it was like it was like starting all over. So like I had Cameron in high school, so I was fairly young, but I had all this like energy and like I was on like a high, like I'm going to college, I'm like free and like adulting. So there was like all this adrenaline, right? Adrenaline like kind of pushing me through it and helping me. But
Momentum.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, the momentum was there. So when I had my daughter now, when I had Brianna, it was just more of like, okay, I have to settle back down. I was like married this time. I had to step back and really look at it like, how can I share my time? Because even like when Cameron was younger, I had an event, he was coming with me, but he was old enough at that point when I was in the journey. So I started going to events, having events when he was like 3, 4 years old. So he was old enough so I could give him like a puzzle or his iPad and say, hey, Cam, like, chill out, mommy's gonna do this event. Or he'd even be at the event listening, paying attention, asking questions. He went to
The
hackathon.
only the only reason why I know you or remembered you was because I went to a New York Tech event, and you were there with Cameron,
Mm-hmm.
and he was being like the perfect child and just being quiet and listening to everything. And then he had a bunch of questions to ask when I saw you at the end when you were being introduced to me. I was so very stunned by this. And then a couple of months later, when you were looking for someone to help you out, I was like, oh, Georgie, Cameron's mom, the woman with the woman with the kid who was very quiet. Uh, yeah,
Yeah, and that's what you become. Like when you have kids, you're no longer Georgie. You're just Cameron's mom or Brianna's mom. I got used to it, but I had to, create like a different kind of like not balance. Like what I've been calling it recently is synergy. Just figuring out, okay, how many hours could I put into the business to make sure the business is good, or what can I do that will automate some of the processes and tasks of the business, so that way I have more time to spend with my kids and my husband. Because there was a time where I was like trying to give everybody again like that equal amount of time and attention and love and effort, and it was just so overbearing. And it was just like I felt like I would give my all to something, and then at the end it was just like, oh, it's not good enough, and I'm just like, what do you mean it's not good enough? That's all I had. I gave everything to that. Like I gave every piece of me. You telling me I should have given more, and it was just like that's all I had, above all I had. And it's just so what I do now, if there's things that could help me to like with even with the kids, like okay, can they do a certain task that will allow me to get a few more minutes of business, or can I do something to automate more of the business so that way I have more time to spend with the kids, and I have like certain limits, like okay, I had to put her in daycare so that way I'm working in the daytime more. I have like the home office, so I separate work from the home. Little tricks like that, if I'm working on a project that they could literally be sitting there next to me while I'm being on an interview or a phone call or something that they could physically be there, I bring them with me if it makes sense. And not really beating myself up, because I think that's the statement. We're so much harder on ourselves than other people are. And a lot of people, didn't feel it was cool for me to bring him to certain events. But if it's like, if he's quiet, this is gonna help me. If he's not disrupting your experience at this event, there's not like a bag of curses. And he had his headphones most times. Again, the iPad was a lifesaver. I would be at a networking event, an hour, 2 hours. I was too young to drink at most events, or I just didn't drink at all. I still don't drink. So alcohol, when the network, the mixer time started, would be gone by that time. And if I didn't do this, right, I wouldn't have the 400 or 500. Literally, I have a box that has about 400 business cards from people that I met in like that first 1 to 2 years of me doing networking. And about 30% of those events, I had Cameron with me. And like he was the one getting some of the business cards. People were like, hey, here's my card. Reached out to me, like to him, because he was just so into it and talking, and it was just like, how can I make these two things work together? My kids are a part of me. My business is a part of me. My family is important to me, very important to me. How can I make it all work together?
I think all that you were saying plays into the emotion of being an entrepreneur and keeping ourselves in check. And I think all that you were doing was, as you mentioned, the first thing I asked you was, how was it being a child of an immigrant, being an immigrant yourself, coming from Jamaica to the United States? How was that entrepreneurial mindset that you had in Jamaica translated into your life here in the United States? I think you're doing the same thing your parents did and your grandparents did and your uncles did, was creating a legacy of entrepreneurship into your child, like giving them that emotion, allowing them to see the ups and downs of it all so that they can decide for themselves in the future whether or not they want to be like mommy and pursue entrepreneurship or pursue those traditional roles that our parents, our immigrant parents, typically want us to do. So I think that's a great legacy that you have so far as a young mom. What do you have to say about that? Do you agree?
Yeah, I definitely do agree. Sometimes they'll be in the office with me and they have like their play phone, and I have like a couple of keyboards and mouses, and like, they'll literally take it up and like pretend to be mommy working and talk about the events, because not only are they in like a one entrepreneur household, like the entire household is entrepreneurs. Like my husband is entrepreneur too. So it's just like, this is what they see day in and day out, and like what it really looks like. And it gives them a different perspective versus a lot of their friends and our family members who, work a modern job. And I'm not going to get mad at them if they grow older and they don't want to take on the family business or start their own businesses. I want to give them that freedom to choose, but I want to also let them know it's not a bad choice for entrepreneurship, because I feel like when I did come to the United States, it was more so like, just get these jobs, go to school. It wasn't, entrepreneurship wasn't an option. It wasn't something that you did until more like philanthropy or like nonprofit work after you made it successful or you made enough money to launch or invest in the business, versus kind of creating it at this point. And a lot of my family members still ask, when are you going to get a job? Aren't you worried about healthcare, pension, 401k? And I'm just like, I work like every day, like I'm working 80-hour weeks, and asking me when I'm going to get a job. Like it gets frustrating at times. But what I have to understand is that things change and times change. So I just have, if I can't explain to them what I'm doing, I do. Sometimes it's like, thank you for your concern. I'm fine. But
Gotta keep them in check too.
yeah, and it's just like sometimes it's really frustrating because it's like someone telling you, oh, what are you gonna ask me when you're gonna get a job? And you're like, I'm working my butt off like every day. I have a job. And like and then you try to explain what you do to them. It's like, no, you're just on the computer or the phone all day. Like I legit have folks that will call me and ask me to do like the most minuscule tasks. I'm just like, don't y'all think I'm busy? I don't realize that I'm busy, like I'm working. So it's like a battle there, but I want my kids to know if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have my support. If you're willing to put in the work, let me rephrase, you have my support, because a lot of folks want to be entrepreneurs and they don't do the work, but that's a whole other story. But if you want to take a traditional path and you want to work somewhere, you want to be a doctor, nurse, lawyer, I'm going to fully support you on that. But it's just about putting in the work and taking the time to learn and gain the experience in whatever field or passion or career you decide to pursue.
That is a great way to end our interview. I think for first episode, I think it was great interviewing you. It was great. I know a lot of this about you already because we worked together for 2 years, and we were great partners. But it was great to know the emotional side, the things that happened behind the CEO Georgie that I knew, and to know that there is a lot of people like us who need to check themselves, who need to evaluate their lives, and know that entrepreneurship is not at all an easy ride. It's a misadventure all the way through.
Definitely, it is a total misadventure, and that's really why I started this series. Again, I just want to highlight and show folks that there's gonna be the craziness, and not to feel like you're something's wrong with you or something's broken if you're having all these misadventures. It's normal, and it's a part of the journey. And you know, again, social media does not do a good job at kind of displaying that. You only see the pretty smiley photos. You don't see the tears of working hard. You don't see folks busting tables or doing like odd jobs, cleaning apartments or side hustles to make the bills for that month because their business hasn't fully taken off yet. But you do see when they're stealing like the $1 million deals or getting 35 billion in like VC funding, whatever it may be, you see like that pretty part, but they don't really
The
talk
glamorous side.
Yeah, the groundwork. So that's definitely why I wanted to bring this series to life, and I hope, you know, everyone enjoys it. We have some awesome episodes coming up. The series will be running from today, so you can catch it every Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on YouTube, and it'll also be airing on my website, GSB with Georgie.
Thank you for having me, Georgie.
Thank you so much for interviewing me, Pedro, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode on Doing the Most, the Misadventures of Entrepreneurship. Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Doing the Most. Catch us here next week, same time, same place. If you can't wait, head on over to doingthemost.xyz to stay connected. Until next time, keep on doing.